And we kick off from Nigeria, where the federal government says non-academic staff members of universities will get half of their withheld salaries should President Bola Tinubu approve the payment of their salary arrears. Education Minister Tahir Mamman, who stated this, argued that members of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union, NASU, were not on strike for the same period in 2022 as their academic counterparts. In March, SANU and NASU members embarked on a one-week warning strike to protest their withheld salaries by the federal government. The two unions berated the federal government for paying withheld salaries to the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, while neglecting the non-academic unions. The education minister said the government has been doing everything possible to get a relief for them. And on to Delta State now, where 4 weeks after the killing of soldiers in Ikwama community in Ugeli South local government area of Delta State, South Nigeria, one question that has been asked severally is what has become of the community and its people. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu in this report brings us answers to the questions. Take a look.
Along the Focados River, surrounded by arable land and water, is part of the Owo Kingdom in Ugeli South local government area of Delta State. There is hardly any formal information on when and how the community was founded, but it has an estimated population of 500 adults who are predominantly engaged in farming and fishing. Its closest neighbors are Ijo-speaking Okoloba and Akubene communities and Robot town of Orere and Amasumo. After the widely condemned incident of March 14, which led to the death of 17 soldiers, those who fled the community in the aftermath of reprisal from the military are still in their hideouts, mainly in thick forest. 4 weeks after, News Central attempted again to see what is left of the community. The first effort on land met a brick wall, as it was described as crisis zone. But this time, we captured the desolate community from the sky. Every building has been brought down completely, except a place of worship that is still standing. We could not differentiate which belongs to royalty or the commoner. Our same faith has befall all, destruction. We then went in search of the people, though through the towns and villages and even on water. The search took us few days until we are able to locate these 109-year-old women and others. We spoke with them at different locations. The centenarian told us how she was rescued with her daughter from the community by soldiers when they arrived to burn down the community.
When they reach night after they burn the community, they can't carry about her daughter go put for the jet. You know, say the kind of the code they do where we say that the code they can't date. The soldiers are rather than the code.
Akibu here na wakiri tina kaya hena aruko kama yoko gobu tulai okera watu hulena ikore na nyama bihero kona hiyo ikoyibie iboya ikore ma iboya ya watu hulena ya yemimo imo kwa ma ya emere ho ya yehwe era kwa sa ku itiobo akaikoko di aka ede idibo ya nyama mepoko iri igari.
Others told us of their losses in human lives and property. They appealed to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Governor Sheriff Oborewori to prevail on the military to leave their community so they can return home to pick up the pieces of what is left of their lives.
The Lord born and only this Sarapa never made for man. I'm not sure that those Sarapa did this way I did first. I know if you get them because I did and only here as only this way what take out. Then now allow me. My phone serve where they on top of my bed, they built the phone. I said they call my color put run. They burn everything, both to Rapa, both to my sister, both to my husband, but party where they never share, they burn all of them.
Really know what they happen. We beg government, I beg government hear our cry to restore the community back again. I beg government, I beg. We get old women when they don't enter bush. Most of them, some of them, they treat themselves. They are nowhere to be found. To eat now become problem. Everything they expensive for the Nigeria economic now. make government fit still call us back. If maybe na the small cassava we get for bush wey dem no born, make we fit still dey harvest those one, dey survive. Na hungry come dey even dey kill the few people wey remain for the community. Abeg, make government hear our cry.
Within the last 4 weeks, various groups and individuals have demanded justice for the 17 slain soldiers, urging the authorities to fish out the actual culprits and let the laws of the land take its course. 8 persons were declared wanted, among them a traditional ruler who handed himself over to authorities. At the same time, military search for suspect has not abated. The concern is that with every passing day, the pain borne by the innocent, worsened by homelessness and deprivation, is made heavier. In Ugele, Delta State, for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
Earlier, News Central's Austin Azu, who has been keeping a tab on this story, join us on the news.
What happened to the Israelites in the Holy Bible after their walls were destroyed, the walls of Jerusalem? So it's going to be very difficult for these people when they return back. Finally, hopefully by the grace of God, once they return back, how they pick up the pieces of their lives again and begin life again is going to be a very tough decision for some of them to return home, because most of them might likely not going to start, have anything to start on. So it's going to be very difficult for them. But I believe home is home. So at the end of whatever decision that will be taken, probably they will be asked to go back home. Most of them will go back to their ancestral home and begin their lives again. The last time we had a media chat with the military, they assured us that the traditional ruler is hale and hearty, that is safe in their custody, that is still undergoing interrogation. So at the end of their investigation and interrogation, probably they will tell us the outcome of it.
The family of the late former chairman of the Nigerian Exchange Group, Abimbola Ogunbanjo, who was killed in a Southern California helicopter crash in February, filed a lawsuit on Wednesday against the U.S. helicopter company. The former chief executive officer of Access Holdings, Dr. Herbert Wigwe, his wife and son were also on board the ill-fated helicopter. The Ogunbanjo family stated that the flight should have been grounded because of treacherous weather. Relatives of Ogunbanjo in the court filing on Wednesday claimed that the charter company Orbic Air improperly flew the helicopter despite a wintry mix of snowy and rainy conditions in the Mojave Desert, where the crash occurred in February 9th, the Press Enterprise reports. One of the attorneys who filed the lawsuit, Andrew C. Robb, noted Ogunbanjo's family is seeking answers and accountability. Let's also tell you that operatives of the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority rescued 18 injured accident victims at Adekunle Inward Adeniji Adele on 3rd Mainland Bridge, Lagos State, Nigeria. The Director of Public Affairs and Enlightenment Department of LASMA, Adebayo Taofik, disclosed that 18 seriously injured passengers were rescued by LASMA official from Zone Lagos Island. Preliminary investigations revealed that a 20 fully loaded LT commercial bus lost control as a result of a brake failure and was about to fall inside lagoon before it was stopped by the rail of 3rd Mainland Bridge. While the truck driver ran away from the accident, policemen from Adeniji Adele Police Station provided security backup during the rescue of 18 seriously injured passengers by LASMA officials. In the meantime, the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, ordered the immediate and indefinite closure of the Dosumu market on Lagos Island following a devastating fire that razed 14 buildings on Tuesday. News Central reported on Tuesday that a fire broke out at the Dosumu market at about 11 a.m. Bettina Nweli gives us an update.
The fire was seen still burning in some high-rise buildings in the market, with the fire service and other relevant institutions mobilized to bring down the affected buildings in a bid to extinguish the inferno. According to the Permanent Secretary of Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, Femi Oke Osoyintolu, the fire affected about 14 buildings.
The threats or the challenges are that some of the buildings that were burned are very, very unstable. And you can see that systematically, strategically, we are pulling them down to ground zero. But however, before we could pull any building out, we will carry out solid material testing on all the buildings that were involved. From the last count, the number of buildings that were involved are 14. So we're on top of it.
This incident comes barely 3 weeks after 4 buildings were destroyed by fire at the same market. Some shop owners expressed how the situation has affected them.
The guy was pouring fuel inside the generator and the thing went on flame. From there he threw the fuel down and the fire started everywhere. So it was terrible yesterday, and from there all the buildings, you can see for yourselves, all the buildings, all of them got flamed up and burned down completely. I depend on my business to feed myself and my family. So it is really going to affect me emotionally and physically.
All the authorities are doing their best. Firefighters are doing their best. But that is why I can be able to see it to the way it is now. Because if not that, the way it was going yesterday, will have raised many buildings. But thank God that effort of many people, a lot of goods, worth millions, has gone down.
Frequent fire outbreaks in the Nigerian market scene, with Lagos State's worst hit, have continued to raise concerns. Last month, the Lagos State Fire Service reported that at least 16 individuals died and property, estimated at 7 billion naira, was lost to fire outbreaks between January and March 2024. The manner in which buildings are situated in Lagos Island without allowance for space is critically dangerous. The onus now lies with the authorities to endeavor they put all that is needed in place in order to prevent such an incident. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
President Bola Tinubu has felicitated, with the Muslim Ummah at Eid al-Fitr, an auspicious occasion that signifies the end of Ramadan, a hallowed season that reflects total submission to God Almighty and His command of sacrifice and service to humankind. We have details in this report.
The prayers kicked off at exactly 10:02 a.m. at the Eid Prayers Ground at the Dodon Barracks in Obalende, Lagos, upon the arrival of the President of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He was joined at the prayer ground by the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Obafemi Hamzat, the Minister of Blue Economy, Boyega Oyetola, former Minister of Works, Babatunde Raji Fashola, and the Private Secretary to the President, Hakeem Muri-Okunola, among other dignitaries. Eid al-Fitr is an auspicious occasion that signifies the end of Ramadan, a sacred season that reflects total submission to God Almighty and His command of sacrifice and service to humankind.
Even though Ramadan is wrong, as Muslims, we must show empathy to fellow Muslims, Christians, non-believers. It's not for us to judge. Even our prophets on the Mojave Desert show empathy to everybody. So we have no business fighting anyone. Let us have religious harmony. Let us behave well.
For us as citizens, we have all our responsibilities and duties to our nation. Let us be disciplined. Let us be law-abiding. Let us ensure peace and harmony in our various communities. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says.
Addressing the faithful, he called for unity with a promise to improve the economy of Nigeria.
The kind of resilience, sacrifice, endurance that we have, we should preserve that for the country. Be kind and be cheerful giver. Love our country better than any other country. That's the only one that we have. And we must continue to protect the integrity of our government and leadership.
Muslim faithful also called for prayers for the nation with recommendations to the government and actions it can take to further alleviate challenges in the country.
My appeal to our people, one is that we need to pray for our country, and we have to have the love of our country. Then secondly, we've also appealed to the government to create more palliatives for the people.
So what the president is doing is commendable. It is tough, I must tell you the truth, but we need courage. And I'm sure that, especially with this Naira going down, things will improve.
The occasion ended with prayers that the lessons, blessings and joys of this season abide with all Muslim faithful and Nigerians at large, while wishing Nigerians a happy Eid al-Fitr celebration.
A former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, has urged President Bola Tinubu to do everything possible to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians. Atiku disclosed this shortly after the Eid al-Fitr prayers at the Eid ground in Yola, the Adamawa state capital. Abubakar, alongside the Adamawa state governor, Amadu Fintiri, appealed to well-meaning Nigerians to contribute positively in the lives of the common man.
Well, it's most unfortunate, but the only way we can overcome this is to work hard and also to support government policies that are designed actually to alleviate, the sufferings of, the poor people, particularly the common man we call in Nigeria. Basically, policies that will empower the ordinary person to be self-sustaining.
And in particular to urge us to live a life of moderation as enjoyed by Islam through helping the needy and ensuring that we coexist and respect one another.
In the ancient city of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima and Governor Babangana Zulum joined other guests at the show of Borno's Palace to witness a Durban performance. Now, this is part of the old tradition of the Kanem Borno Empire to celebrate Eid al-Fitr. Our correspondent Umaru Kirawa has this report.
Maiduguri came alive as thousands gathered to witness the colorful Durbar hosted by the Shehu of Borno. The Durbar featured horse race with beautifully decorated horses and riders adorned in traditional attire. The event kicked off with a procession led by the Shehu himself, followed by notable dignitaries to the admiration of Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima and Governor Babagana Zulum, among other guests who were obviously impressed. The atmosphere was filled with excitement as the horses galloped down the racecourse, accompanied by traditional music and cheers from the crowd. It was a sight to behold, with participants displaying their horse riding skills, leaving spectators in amazement. The Durbar provides an opportunity for the community to come together and strengthen their bond, as well as showcase their vibrant cultural heritage to the world.
I urge the people of Borno State to intensify prayers for peace to reign in Borno State and for peace to reign in Nigeria, especially at this our trying moment. I also want to urge the people of Borno State to be law-abiding citizens and to be patient with the government, as the government is doing everything possible to reduce the hardship of the people, especially during this time of subsidy removal.
The quality of guests at this event underscores its importance and highlights the government's support towards preserving and promoting cultural diversity within Nigeria. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
As Muslim faithfuls in Nigeria join their counterparts across the world to mark the Eid al-Fitr celebrations, some citizens have called on government and other well-meaning citizens to extend a hand of fellowship to those in need. Idong Joseph reports.
It's an early start for the Muslim Eid prayers after a long time of spiritual reflection. Muslim faithful in Abuja converged on several worship centers to join their counterparts from across the world to offer prayers, marking the end of the Ramadan fast.
They are celebrating today because they are finishing one of the pillars of Islam, and they learn many lessons.
The hope is that Muslims shall learn from the lessons of piety, sacrifice, compassion, kindness, and love for each other.
Several faithful here have finished their prayers and are set for the Eid celebrations with families and friends. And for many, the Ramadan concludes a period of devotion, marking a fresh beginning.
While the day is celebrated with plenty to eat and drink, there are, however, some who rely on alms for survival, for whom the situation seems to be different.
I have one and I have now make me come outside to come and stay for road prayer. If I have, I can come and stay for melody. I can stay for my house and celebrate with my friends.
We have come here severally seeking for help. Nobody cares to listen or help us. Instead, they help those who don't really need any assistance. People discriminate us anytime we go to them for help, most especially those we practice same faith with. It is people from other faiths that cares to help us.
With the current economic reality taking its toll on citizens, some are calling on governments and well-meaning Nigerians to extend a hand of support to those in need.
We roam the streets every day seeking for help because we have children we must cater for. The government has done their best for us, but we wish they still do more.
Religious leaders have also tasked Muslims across the country to unite and pray for guidance from Nigeria's leaders. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
And continuing Edo State, Nigeria, where the impeached deputy governor of the state, Philip Shaibu, has written to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, to obtain a complete form to file a formal petition against the Chief Judge of Edo, Justice Daniel Okugboa. Shaibu was impeached on Monday by the State House of Assembly following the adoption of the report of a 7-man panel set up by the Chief Judge to probe him for alleged perjury and leaking the government's secrets. The panel concluded its probe last Friday after adjourning twice for Shaibu to appear for his defense without the ex-deputy governor showing up. Umuahia, the Abia state capital, is a project that must be given due attention to give it a befitting status. Recently, the state government, through the Commissioner for Information and Culture, Prince Oke Kanu, announced plans to put the town in order. News Central's Chinwe Ugeli has this report.
Ride through Umuahia and the weary roads that constitute the East Gate is such an eyesore, unbefitting of a modern city. Severally, the state government has hinted about plans to situate the various businesses and motor parks littered all over the city center to better and more organized locations, yet has not been able to implement it.
In the state capital, you know that a lot of street trading is really making everybody to look messed up, everywhere to look messed up. And that is why I'm praying for governor himself to look inwards and sanitize the city, at least take them to the proper place where they should stay.
The park and the market should be located so as to give the environment that is to make it lively and depict the capital for a state.
Commissioner for Information and Culture, Prince Uke Kanu, says time has come to put into action the plans.
Pursuant to the state government's plans to make Umuahia a smart city, government may soon activate its plan to redesign and beautify the East Gate area of the state capital and make it fit for a smart city. This plan has been on the drawing board for quite a while, but in the coming months, government will take this plan off the drawing board.
The citizens, on their part, expect a more appealing capital to complement government's effort in road rehabilitation.
More essentially, East Gate, Owerri Road, and along this Uzakoli Road from Opera Square to Ogucharadia. It doesn't look like the capital.
Obviously, there are a lot of work to be done. Look at people selling around and all that. It needs to be properly organized.
It is more disheartening when there is an available market abandoned by the traders who now trade in the open on unauthorized locations. In Omaha News Central, Chuma Ugele.
Earlier in March, a veteran Nollywood actress and National Public Relations Officer of the Actors Guild of Nigeria, Kate Hensher, lost her mother. On Tuesday night, a service of songs was held in her honor, and News Central's Bettina Onweli was there and shares her report.
From far and near, Nollywood came out in mourning. VIPs and guests gathered at the Trinity House Church for the service of songs of the late Theresa Etim Hensher, mother of popular actress Kate Hensher. The atmosphere was one of reverence and reflection as attendees paid tribute to the dearly departed.
Your mother was a devoted Christian. She has fought a good fight and has kept the faith. She has finished the race. Hence, what is awaiting her is what a righteous judge will give her on the last day.
On behalf of the President and the Executive of the Actors Guild of Nigeria, unfortunately, President Chief Emeka Rolas AJMON could not make it to the venue because he's also bereaved and in faraway Anambra State, but he sends his regard and his love. And so to tell you, Kate, be steadfast, be strong. We know that Mama was good, but like in life, God knows best why she had to go.
The service featured a session of praise and worship, each song carrying a message of love, resilience, and healing, bringing comfort to all who listened.
I could see from the time I visited her in hospital that she was determined to do it her way. She made up her mind, she packed her bags, and she left. Gloriously. I think we need to give Mommy another round of applause.
The loss of a relative is never a walk in the park, but it is hoped that in this season, a renewed sense of strength and unity will be bestowed upon the friends and family of the Henshers, giving them hope and fortitude for the future. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Onweli.
We'll start off with some very sad news from Nigeria's entertainment industry as Nollywood actor Junior Pope Odowondu, popularly called Junior Pope, has been confirmed dead. It was gathered that the actor died on Wednesday afternoon during a boat trip for a film production. The national president of the Actors Guild of Nigeria, Emeka Rollers, confirmed that the remains of the actor have been deposited at the morgue. News Central's Austin Azu was at the hospital where Junior Pope was admitted in Asaba.
We are here at Renewed Minds Medical and Diagnostic Center here in Asaba. This is where the body of Junior Pope was brought yesterday, and it was confirmed dead by the medical doctor late in the night. This morning we came to find out the situation of things. We met a few persons on ground. A moment ago, his body was conveyed in an ambulance and taken away from this hospital. As we can see now, the hospital is empty, but we don't know where his body is being taken to. In Asaba, for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
We head now to Mali, West Africa, where the military junta has suspended its activities of political parties and political associations until further notice, citing reasons of public order. Now, this was disclosed by the Minister of Territory, and that's Abdoulaye Maiga administration, at a press conference in Bamako, the capital. He said the decision was taken at a weekly cabinet meeting. On March 31st, more than 100 political parties, political groupings, and civil society organizations in Mali called in a joint declaration for the authorities to organize elections. The declaration stated that the transition period, initially scheduled to last 18 months and extended for a further 24 months, ended on March 26. And on to Senegal. For the very first time since June, passengers disembarked in the region's capital, Sigo-Chor, under the midday sun on Wednesday after an overnight voyage along the Atlantic coast, mangroves, and the banks of the Casamance River under the escort of a military vessel. Now, the maritime link is vital for the economy of the rural and cut-off Casamance region and an alternative for many who can't afford the cost of a plane ticket. The service has been closed due to political unrest, and the resumption coincides with the celebrations marking the end of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, where many people can return home.
Bon, je suis tellement émue que les mots me manquent, parce que c'est pour moi une première fois de prendre le bateau de Dakar à Ziguinchor. Alors, comme le bateau était stationné pendant quelques mois, alors nous sommes ravis, contents de faire ce trajet en toute sécurité et en toute quiétude.
Que vraiment on avait été vraiment privés de notre liberté, et voilà que nous avons repris notre liberté. Et vraiment ça nous permettait de beaucoup voyager, quitter Dakar pour venir à Ziguinchor pour au moins faire nos besoins, y compris nos parents. Aujourd'hui, pour vous dire vrai, vraiment, c'est pour qu'au moins l'économie puisse reprendre. Parce que vraiment, on était à stand-by et rien ne marchait. C'est un grand plaisir pour moi, au moins de voir le bateau reprendre son trajet.
Oui, ça représente beaucoup de choses, parce que lorsque la navire a arrêté de prendre son cours, nous avons constaté qu'on avait eu du mal à écouler nos produits. Par exemple, nos produits, pour les transporter d'ici à Dakar, on avait énormément de difficultés. Donc à travers ce navire-là, ça va nous permettre de pouvoir emporter beaucoup de produits à Dakar et aussi vice-versa. Donc ça joue beaucoup de rôle aussi.
And in East Africa, Sudanese Army Chief Lieutenant General Abdul Fattah al-Burhan has declared a decisive break with the past. He said this in a brief Eid al-Fitr address to the nation, and he stressed that the pre-war period encompassing both al-Bashar's regime and the transitional government is over. Al-Burhan also stressed that the ongoing conflict, which began in April 2023, will be known as the, quote, Battle of Dignity, and will serve as the foundation for building a new future for Sudan. Al-Burhan expressed optimism about the war's progress, attributing it to the unity between the army and the people.
بالصوت العالي لا عودة لما قبل 15 أبريل 23 ولا عودة لما قبل 25 أكتوبر 22 ولا عودة لما قبل أبريل 2019. شعب السوداني الأبي الكريم نستكمل الحديث بإذن الله بعد النصر في معركة الكرامة. هذا النصر الذي يقترب أكثر كل يوم بفضل وحدة وتلاحم الشعب مع قواته المسلحة.
President Joe Biden has vowed that U.S. commitment to defend Israel against Iran was ironclad as concerns rose in Washington that a significant Iranian strike could happen within days in retaliation for the bombing of an Iranian consular building in Damascus. U.S. and allied officials fear that a strike is imminent and could come in the form of a direct missile launch from Iran rather than an attack through a proxy like Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel has promised to respond in kind to such a direct strike, raising the prospect of a regional war, which U.S. officials now believe is more likely than any point since the beginning of the Gaza conflict on October 7th. Japanese Prime Minister and President Joe Biden mentioned a U.S.-Japan soaring to a new heights, which both leaders say would impact generations to come. Now, after the president, as U.S. President's announcement that a Japanese person will be the first non-American to walk on the moon, Kishida, the Prime Minister of Japan, stalks to the theme in his toast for the state dinner, quoting the cult 1960s U.S. television show Star Trek. Japan sent over 3,000 cherry blossom trees to the United States just over a century ago, and they still line the U.S. Capitol's scenic tidal basin.
Join me in raising your glasses to our alliance, to our friendship, and in the words of those young students in Japan, to the same future we share. Cheers. Cheers. Turn over to you, Mr. Prime Minister.
Our joint efforts are variable and dispensable for our bright future and for the peace and stability of the world. We are now standing at the turning point in history, embarking on a new frontier and elevate this unshakable Japan-U.S. relationship to even greater heights and hand it to the next generation. Finally, let me conclude with a line from Star Trek, which you all know: to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Australia on Thursday announced a scheme to pour public money into manufacturing and clean energy industries, joining the global race to build a cleaner and more resilient economy. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese unveiled the Future Made in Australia Act to help compete with global partners who are providing massive subsidies to new industries. The act, to be discussed by Parliament this year, would mark a departure from Australia's decades-old free market policies on trade and investment. Though no figures are given, the taxpayer-funded incentive scheme aims to compete with other nations' efforts, such as U.S. President Joe Biden's massive investments through the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act. Other trading partners, including China, the European Union, Japan, and Canada, have also heavily invested in their industrial base and manufacturing capabilities.
We need to be clear-eyed about the economic realities of this decade, recognising that the game has changed and the role of government needs to evolve. Government needs to be more strategic, more sophisticated, and a more constructive contributor. We need sharper elbows when it comes to marking out our national interest. This decade marks a fundamental shift in the way nations are structuring their economies, a change every bit as significant as the Industrial Revolution or the Information Revolution, and more rapid and wide-ranging than both. Nations are drawing an explicit link between economic security and national security. The so-called Washington Consensus has fractured, and Washington itself is pursuing a new direction. The United States has implemented the Inflation Reduction Act and CHIPS Acts, and call a small...
And for today's business stories, we turn to the business desk.
Welcome to Business News. Zimbabwe's new currency, ZiG, rose 0.2% to 13.50 against the dollar on Wednesday, with a cumulative gain of 0.4% since trading began this week. This is a significant change from the previous Zimbabwean dollar, which lost value every trading day this year before being abandoned last Friday. To reduce volatility, authorities have tied ZiG to the price of gold, making one ZiG worth about 7 US cents, the price of a milligram of gold. Despite this, Central Bank Governor John Mushayevahu denied that Zimbabwe is returning to the gold standard. Following the launch of the gold-backed ZiG, most shops now accept only US dollars for daily purchases. Government services are also disrupted as banks finalize the currency switch, and by midweek, only half of Zimbabwe's banks could process ZiG payments. The central bank plans to use the difference in local inflation rates calculated using both the Zimbabwe and US dollars, along with changes in the price of a basket of precious minerals held as reserves to set the ZiG rate. And moving on, the Ghana Statistical Service has announced that Ghana's inflation has risen to 28.5% in March. This is according to the Ghana Statistical Service, GSS, which ascribed the increase to the depreciation of the cedi, which has driven import costs higher, as well as rising cost of fuel, goods, and food prices for customers. According to figures from the Ghana Statistical Service, non-food inflation went up by 22.6%, while food inflation increased to 29.6%. Locally produced items and imported items went up by 26.6% and 23.8% respectively. GSS also identified food and non-alcoholic beverages as well as transport as the main drivers for the increase in the overall inflation for March 2024. Finally, in East Africa, the Kenya Revenue Authority, KRA, has raised the tax rate charged on employers granting welfare support for the fourth straight quarter, dealing a setback to workers' benefits. The fringe benefits tax is a levy imposed on employees receiving extra welfare benefits, such as cheap loans in addition to their wages. In the latest adjustment, the taxman has raised the fringe benefits tax to 16% for the next 3 months until June on account of the prevailing high market interest rate. That's all from today on Business News. Thank you for watching. I am Perpetua Fasamipita.
And that's all we can take at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Nigerian government is considering half pay for SANU and NASU members. Mali junta has suspended activities by political parties. And we also told you that Sudan's army chief has vowed to return to a pre-war era during Eid speech. Now send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number now showing on your screen. And make sure to go follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith, Atibi.